Your power as a trucker and fatigue behind the wheel tonight on Truckin City Journal. You know, a truck driver stands up and he blows the whistle on his own company. And one of these construction giants thinks they own the road. And tonight, we get news on a six-figure payout for this guy and his troubles, amongst other things. But tonight, we're going to focus on that. Because you know what? You are the captain of your own ship. So we're going to deal with that one. That's right. OSHA came down on a company that fired a driver for retaliating against company individuals pushing the limit on schedules and demands of a driver behind the wheel. The driver paid the price by losing his job, but saved his health and his life. So let's talk tonight about that and other things. Greetings to you all, truck lovers, truth seekers. I am Boss Man, the CIC of the United States of Truck, and I'm opening the best call-in show of all time. Coming to you with a skill granted by God himself to restore your faith in broadcast talent. Letting you know with no uncertain terms, there is a way to make trucking great again. I'm taking on the mainstream media, fatigue behind the wheel, and other issues that are giving you a way to show others where to begin.
Shall we begin?
From the headquarters of the Truth in Broadcasting Network, introducing Truckin City Journal and the El-Rushbo of Truckin News, Boss Man.
Eight 860-785-3547 is the studio line. You are welcome to call in at any point in time. Give your 2 cents on what you think trucking should be about. Email us at thatstruckinnews@outlook.com. That's truckinnews@outlook.com. We are broadcasting once again from inside Truckin City's headquarters here in North Carolina. Viewer contributions are the backbone of this channel and our format. So I urge you, take a moment, go down, subscribe, hit the like button, go forth and spread the word. Tell your brother, your mother, your father, everybody out there, and most importantly, your brother in trucking about finding greatness in action. TruckinCityMedia.com, TruckinCityMedia.com. We are hosting a show no others can be. Go forth and look, and you will not see another news show like this anywhere on the dial. We are capitalizing on the faith of you in the audience and the truth in broadcasting. Some headlines worth talking about, though they're not going to be the focus of tonight, but something I thought I'd bring to your attention. The American Journal of Transportation highlighted an article about women in trucking announcing their finalists for this year's Influential Women in Trucking. Okay, 3 women featured are Lisa Gonerman, Vice President of Enterprise Services, TA Dedicated, Sherry Aberg, Chief Operating Officer, Transport Enterprise Leasing, and Tracy Rushing, Executive Director of Safety for RE Garrison. The link to the story is below on this headline. And I'd like you in the audience to tell me in the comments if you'd like me to look up and feature more on this show in future shows or on a front line. Let me know what you think. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Another story worth mentioning, ATA president calls on carriers to, quote, stick together, get loud, and kick ass. Well, Trucking Dive called it out. They said that during roughly a 25-minute address in Nashville, the association's chief executive director encouraged carrier leaders to get involved in helping to answer a fundamental question posed by the election upcoming and a slew of other issues too. Looking at the effects of the election on trucking, maybe more. It's a story worth looking at. Tell me in the comments, what do you think this means for trucking? Would this and more make your day on a future show? Let me know in the comments below. But today we have front and center at least four different four different poets, one included, but three others in trucking that have their own opinions. We have Fate Trucking, we have Larry the Trucker, we have Thumper and Bo, of course, one and the same. And we also have Poet from the North, who can't make up his mind how he wants to log in. Get your stuff straight, Poet. We'll be with you shortly. Everyone on this panel has a unique opinion and a perspective, and I welcome them to the panel to talk to you about how these stories affect you. But this is all about you. So do take the moment and time worth putting comments in. Take a moment or two. Also, recognize we have a studio line here dedicated to you calling in and letting us know what you think. We are here for you. And today's topic is one that I think is of utmost importance. So I would like to get to it without any further ado. Let's start the show and get on to my opening thoughts. You know, your power as a trucker is more than you think. A lot of people don't really take that really full well for granted. A lot of people just don't know what they need to know. And today's show is hopefully going to give you a little bit of a perspective on that. What we have here is we've got a truck driver, one of our own. This guy was pushed beyond limits. He was told he had to do this and that a certain way. And he's pushed to the breaking point by a company that saw him as nothing more than just another tool, cog in the wheel. According to an article in FreightWaves, this gentleman was forced to ignore hours of service limits, disregarded when he spoke up about his health, and punished him when he refused to put lives on the line. Now, OSHA then came in after he was terminated because clearly he said he wasn't going to do certain things and he wasn't going to break rules and he wasn't going to drive in an ill fashion. So after a while, the company terminated him. Well, OSHA comes in later and hands the driver a nice settlement, a grand total of $184,000, and expects that everybody like us is going to applaud. Yeah, it's a good thing. OSHA stepped in. They made a difference. Well, I think it goes deeper than that. Hear me out on this. There's a deeper issue here. Where's the outrage over the mental and physical toll that this man had to pay? He got this $184,000, but you and I both know that the money doesn't really erase the damage that was done to his health or the strain on his family. This isn't just about dollars and cents. This is about human dignity and the cost of pushing good people past their limits. When companies treat truckers, you and me, like we're nothing more than machines, they're spitting in the face of every one of us out here on the road, busting our ass, getting the job done, and trying to be safe on America's highways. Let me tell you guys, this isn't an isolated case. I talk to truckers all the time, and they feel the weight of this same kind of pressure. There are other companies out there doing just as much bad and pushing people just like this to their limit for the same corporate greed that pushes profit over people. And if we don't start standing up now, and if we don't demand respect for the people that keep this country rolling, well, they're just going to keep coming after us. They're going to keep doing what they're doing, and we're going to start falling one by one. Numbers are power. OSHA might slap a fine or two on a company like WL Construction. This article refers to that person and that company. But you think that really changes anything? This is a slap on the wrist. And while another driver's out there right now, as we speak, being pushed to ignore his own well-being for the bottom line. So here's my question to you in the audience. The American trucker, when you and we are, when are we going to say enough? When are we going to actually step up and say, you know what? There are standards that need to be practiced. When do we draw the line and demand accountability? This is about you. This is about you and me. We put in the long, hard hours. We make the decisions. We are in control of our truck. So we're the ones that have to get home and survive to talk about it the next day. It's about time these corporations realize they can't just treat us as expendable goods. You know, they may be running this muck about automation and all these other things, but this is about you and I. Okay. I say it every day when I get on the show. The trucks make the deliveries, but it's you and me that make the difference. So call into our studio line, 860-785-3547. We've got a power to change the conversation. We've got to take back our rights, and we got to remind these companies that the backbone of this nation deserves respect. So call us now, put in the comments. Let's make some noise. You've got a chance to be heard and make a difference and show the American trucker isn't just another tool on the road to profit. Yeah, it's one thing to make a living. It's another to make a dollar, but it's another to drag everyone down in the process. So let's hear from you guys in the audience, and let's talk to the panel. Let's get this conversation started. How are you guys tonight? Thumper and Bo out there in the Midwest making it happen. What are you guys up to today?
Oh, just hauling some cows.
But you're actually watching your hours and doing it safely, are you not?
Yes.
I hear the crows. Poet, you gotta do the mute, brother. I can't be watching you all the time. I just muted your mic, but I'm telling you what, if you're not being talked to directly, you need to mute your mic. And that's the only time I'm reminding anybody. So let me ask you a question. Do you think, Thumper, that $184,000 is a just reward or recognition for the fact that they really did go above and beyond with the way they treated this guy? I mean, don't know if you've read the story, but they really pushed it. 10 different occasions on 10 different times where he decided, you know what, you're asking too much, and they fired him for it. What's your thoughts?
Well, they didn't give them enough, in my opinion. I mean, a lot of people don't. I mean, the ones who actually do understand what a person goes through on the road is truck drivers themselves.
Mm-hmm.
If you got a company that's going to push you and push you and push you, yeah, I wouldn't work for them either.
True that. I mean, regulations are there, and regulations basically state that you have to manage your hours a certain way. And it's not just in a day, it's in an average week. I mean, think about it. This question's to you. This question I'm going to address to you, Fate. And when it comes down to managing your clocks, you've got things like 30-minute breaks, you've got things like splits, and you've got ways to manage your time. So when a company asks you to go above and beyond and do things you're not comfortable with, I mean, does all that go out the window? I mean, the government set these regulations for a reason. And here you've got a company like WL Construction asking their drivers, forget those regulations. You do what I want. My money means more than you. What do you think?
I would say, show me the money.
Yeah,
I'm kidding.
Well, I mean, in a sense, you're almost right because, you know, at the end of the day, he got the payout after the fact. They probably weren't treating him all that well. Otherwise, he probably would have treated it differently himself. Do you not think? So, in a sense, your comical reply made sense.
Listen, there's a difference between having a company that requires you to work your full clock and a company that is asking you to do something illegal. Right. There are people that can't work their full clock. You know what I mean? Like, for multitude of reasons, their health is an issue, or you know, the other fact is some people are lazy. I'm not calling this gentleman lazy at all. The minute a company asks you to break the law, though, or if you are in a position where it is too strenuous of a job and the company isn't working with you and they're forcing you to do things that's not adequate for your health, move on. Just like Thumper said, move on.
Yeah, you have to watch yourself before you watch anything else, because I mean, you know, without you, you've got nothing. You know, and if your health deteriorates beyond a point of being able to reproach it or retrieve it, I mean, you're killing yourself and the industry too, because, you know, I got some information coming up that's going to perfectly demonstrate that. But
I'll say one more thing real quick, and then I'll let other people talk. I have a buddy that used to run reefer freight with me, right?
Mhm.
He was not getting the adequate amount of sleep that he felt like he was required to get.
Right.
The hours were just too strenuous for him. So he
Right.
made a decision to leave the reefer game and truck in a different type of different type of trucking. You know what I mean? That's more, you're delivering during the daytime, you're sleeping at night. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
do what works for you. Don't
You
break
have
the law either.
great advice. Great advice. I mean, you have to do it. I mean, in terms of this question goes to you, Larry. In terms of rest breaks, we talked about a minute ago. Do you think that in the trucking industry, this is just suggestions? Do you really think that maybe companies don't really care? I mean, in the case of WL Construction and paving, the driver was forced to operate beyond hours of service, ignoring federal rest requirements, and rest breaks were viewed merely as guidelines by some of the companies in question and some of the people talked about. Then they were non-negotiable. I mean, what happens to these guys when they're told and pushed beyond their limits for the sake of profit? I mean, breaks are there for a reason. What do you think, Larry?
Well, it's no different than bigger companies doing the same thing. Your
Right.
bigger companies like Warner, CR, England, Swift, they all have that forced dispatch. That's included in that.
Well,
But
yeah.
even here where I work at, we have
Yep.
forced dispatch.
Right.
They want us to run 11 hours a day
Mhm.
and try and do our split breaks every time.
Right.
Well, your split breaks are only going to get you so far.
Sure that. Well, let's
I mean,
talk about it. I mean, how efficient, if used correctly, can split brakes really be? I mean, come on. The idea of it being there was mainly designed because people were held back so much at shippers and receivers. So the idea
correct.
of using split brakes is designed to actually ease on the fatigue. Now, I don't know enough about the article other than what it said. It was a Freight Waves article, which is linked below. But I mean, was that even utilized? Was that even thought of? Was it even brought up? Didn't really say in the article. But how many of us really utilize it? I personally don't. I don't have a need to. But was this guy? Don't know. But as you point out, they're there. Well, why not use them? And I don't really think, not that I'm speaking much other than Warner because I worked with them briefly. Warner really didn't push me on the whole break thing, the sleeper split berth thing. They really don't push that. I mean, yeah, I mean, they do force dispatch, so you're right on that, but whether they came back on it, I don't know. I don't know if they've changed that over the years. Really can't tell you. So, I don't know. Your experience may be different with your current carrier, Larry, so but, that's
Yeah.
I don't know. If anybody sees different or experiences different in the comments, please let me know. Um I mean, do you think really many truckers know about that these days? I mean, a lot of people I talk to, they don't. You mentioned the word split, and they go, "Huh? What?" Go ahead, Faye. Go ahead, man. You're muted, I think. There you go.
If you are a truck driver and you don't know about split sleeper berth, you're
You're missing the boat.
you're missing the boat big time. Like every trucker should know what the FMCSA and DOT allows and doesn't allow. Part of
Well,
that
a lot of
is
them know
split
it. Faye,
sleeper
don't
berth.
misunderstand me. A lot of them know it, but how many of them actually feel confident enough to use it without getting in trouble? I mean, you'd be surprised the amount of people I talk to just shy away from the whole thing because they don't understand it. You know, I'm one of those. I'm equal to that. I didn't understand it until, believe it or not, you in midlife actually got on a couple of lives with me and actually explained the benefits, the pros and cons, and I was like, wow, I never thought of that. So I'm one of them. And that really can be a problem for some people.
Refrigerated drivers are more frequently to use the split brakes than someone pulling a van or someone pulling a flatbed.
True that. True that. To answer 7C's question on the comments right now, yes, we are trying to go live as daily as possible. We're not going to be every single day, but if I've got a story to want to talk about and I think it's an important news topic, I'm going to go live. My format is still with Wednesday and Saturday with Frontlines, different kind of show. Hope you can appreciate the difference in between the shows. but they're important nonetheless. And I want to reach you guys in the audience and give you the opportunity to both learn and teach all at the same time. So I'm happy that you're recognizing that and glad that you're part of the crew there, Seven Seas. Thank you for joining us. Looking at all the legends, you know, the cowboys of trucking. Be honest. Thank you for that supreme comment. I appreciate that. Supernut Express, being forced to take a split every day is real stupid. If you're very close to a 500-mile day, that's good enough. I do a 10-hour drive and I'm home. I do 10-hour driving, I'm home. Well, if you're close to your house, I mean, you really don't have too much need for it. I mean, it really depends on your schedule, the demands your carrier has on you, and where you got to go. I mean, if you're looking for a 4,000-mile week, you almost have to do splits sometime. But go ahead, Fate.
So, like, understanding what a split break does is directly what you're talking about of fatigue with a driver. I took a split break today, not because I was forced to or anything. I woke up, I made a delivery, I drove for about 3.5 hours. I wanted to take a shower and I was tired. So I pulled over for 2 hours that stopped my 14-hour clock. Right? So I didn't lose anything. I didn't, you know what I mean? I didn't gain anything either. I just got to stop for 2 hours and relax and then finish my drive, which was 505 miles today is what I drove. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, there's time for it when it actually helps. And you know, to your point, Fate, I mean, knowing that and getting that down, I mean, that helps everybody. What do you think happens when truckers, or when trucking companies ignore these regulations? I mean, WL Construction learned a hard lesson when OSHA came in and fined them and ordered them to yet rehire this fella. Many companies still gamble by breaking laws, especially when they don't get caught. They'll do it as long as they can, you know. So do you guys think the penalty that OSHA put on this company was enough to make them think, or do you think this company might continue doing it just because they want to chase a dollar? Bottom line is, do you think that needs to be a stiffer penalty or different? Larry, what do you think?
If I was that driver, I wouldn't go back.
Well, we've already discovered that. I mean, that's an obvious one. Poet, what do you think? Do you think that penalty should be higher?
It should have been. 184 grand is a drop in the bucket for somebody like that.
Yeah.
And after what I went through 6 months ago, no, they should have paid double or triple that.
Right. Okay.
Just my feelings.
Well, I mean, what do you think with what happened? Do you think they'll continue that, or do you think they'll actually fly right on this occasion?
Fly right? They can't even fly left. They're just flying by the seat of their pants, hoping that they'll get caught.
Well, and that's 90% of the thing. Everybody has a breaking point, and I think WL Construction learned theirs. I mean,
maybe.
When it comes down to, I mean, companies getting away with things. I mean, do you think they look at us as just tools, or do you think there's maybe a different story going on here? Because I mean, when it come down to it, the story showed a company disregarding a driver's health and well-being. That to me is a golden nugget. I don't know which one of you is. That was Thumper's mic. I mean, if you're going to treat drivers as disposable assets, how long are you going to actually stay in business? And what is that going to say to the drivers that work for you as a company? So how do we shift this culture and get companies to show us the respect we deserve and turn this whole conversation around? What do you guys think?
I will tell you later what happened to me 6 months ago, when we're off the air, and you can take it from there.
Okay. Well, we may have a different show on our hands for that. Thumper, what do you think?
Well, yeah, I think they're just using them as a tool, like a lot of people do, like a lot of the companies do. Some of the companies I've worked for, you're just a number.
Yeah.
If you're bringing in revenue, whatever, they're going to push you to your limits, and they're going to try to make you do stuff you don't want to do.
True.
I try not to run my business like that. I try to treat my employees, because I'm small enough, I try to treat my employees like family. And honestly, you get more done when you treat people like that and not push them. But
Right.
a lot of those bigger companies out there, they don't know what the inside of a semi even looks like. You know, they just don't know what we're going through.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's kind of my thoughts on it. I think he should have got a lot more than what he did. That company that we're talking about right now, I guarantee it, they're going to keep doing it.
Yeah. Okay, so this driver stood up to illegal actions and went to the right people, made the right noise. OSHA then came in, had his back, gave the ruling, said they had to rehire. But how many truckers out there do you think, other than him, really know their rights when it comes to whistleblowing and actually making the decision to either A, move away and get away from the company and look for something different, or turn them in and actually have the problem solved at its core? I mean, do you guys think there's enough knowledge out there, or do you think there needs to be more said about something like that? What do you guys think? Go ahead, Faye.
Well, I think more should be said.
Yeah.
But I
Right.
don't have a strong reasoning behind that. I think a lot of drivers are intimidated by the company that they might work for, that they just leave and keep their mouth shut, right? Like,
They're worried about job security, you think?
yeah, that plays a role too. We all need a job. We all need to make a living for our family. But getting back to what you asked earlier, excuse me.
Go ahead.
If OSHA, give me a second here.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I mean, more to the point I made a minute ago. I mean, it's one thing to be afraid of losing your job, but it's another entirely, and I think you're probably going to make this point in a second, to put yourself at such risk that you wind up being part of the problem rather than part of the solution. Your job security is one thing, but handling the job and being safe and making a profit, I think, are two different baskets.
I agree, 100%.
Yeah.
I agree with that. If OSHA was able to prove that they violated DOT federal law with the hours of service, if they were able to prove like labor law violations, $200,000 settlement plus having to rehire somebody, in my mind, isn't enough. But I'm also a believer, because I operate legally, that if companies are caught operating illegally, they shouldn't be allowed to have DOT numbers. There should be a suspension of that DOT number for a while. You know what I mean? Really affect the overall pocketbook. I don't know how big of a construction this company was, but maybe $200,000 hurts them, but maybe it doesn't. And they're going to continue unsafe practices after a while. You know what I mean? They'll probably hunker down for a little bit.
Company, according to the Department of Labor, had more than 250 employees at 10 different asphalt plants throughout Southwest Virginia. So that gives you an idea how big they were.
They're a big company.
Yeah.
So
they'll
mind their P's and Q's for a little bit. They're lucky they got off easy. Imagine if that driver would have hurt somebody, killed somebody, or killed him, hurt himself. Like,
and really, I mean, when it really comes down to it, I mean, that is my worst fear, because if you actually do take that into consideration, that can kill people. I mean, what you're seeing on the screen to the right of Scott right now is what the end result can be. If you ignore the routine and you ignore the laws that are put into place for your safety, you'll be on your side blocking traffic, and at the very best, just having a traffic tie-up, at the very worst, you're going to kill somebody. I mean, let's not play games. Let's take and handle this the way it should be, and keep safety in mind first before anything. Because I'm kind of looking up all the different infractions, because I've got 3 different articles up here. As far as I remember, a different article I seen a while ago, there was 10 different infractions the driver himself had relating to attendance records, which was their stance with why they fired him. But the three that caught OSHA's attention were driving fatigued, and they were based in three different circumstances where he turned down loads because they would have extended or required him extending his hours of service to such a point where he was either been late or not been able to fulfill the load contract. So that comes part of the discussion of what do you do with service failures? And apparently, one of the things I remember reading on this article that particular company was big on service failures, and they would fire you if you were part of that or breached a contract such that happened. So the three different occasions this company noted he did that, and it was purely, according to him, for reasons related to his fatigue and his ability to fulfill the contract before him. So kudos to him for making the right call, but because of that, they fired him, and OSHA said, nope, that was wrong. You broke the law. Because fatigue driving is not one of those things that legally you're allowed to retaliate against an employee for managing. You can't do that. That's against the federal law. So that's why we're talking about this. Now, let me ask another question. Do you think OSHA is doing enough to protect us? They stepped in and penalized WL, but my question is, do you think they're doing enough overall to hold companies accountable? Do you think they provide truckers with enough resources, like the knowledge, like we're talking about right now, or do you think more needs to be done to support us? Larry, what do you think? You've been awful quiet.
More needs to be done because some people don't. Some people are too afraid to come forward. So
yeah, well, that's the whole whistleblower.
Because of loss of job or which I've always been told, whistleblower, they can't really terminate you during an investigation either. So
there has to be an investigation too. So I mean, until it actually gets into the hands of authorities or somebody in the legal realm, it's not even whistleblower. You're just a tattletale, and you're a pain in the butt.
If no one's coming forward, then OSHA's not going to know anything. So it all comes back to the drivers not speaking up.
Right. Supernut makes a point you can probably relate to if you can read that comment, Larry. He says, try working for the Russians. They give you a 70-hour reset in a few minutes, but they've turned down because they want to do. And you mentioned earlier what he's saying, that they'll fire you if you actually take a 34. There's some companies that actually treat you that way. I don't like that. I can't believe that, but you mentioned it before.
I worked for one company up out of Chicago. They fired me in 1 month because I decided I run like I normally do. I run 3, 4, 5 months at a time.
Right.
So I was running for 4 weeks straight, took a 34, which was supposedly perfectly legal.
Right.
And went back to the yard, and they fired me once I got back to the yard.
That's incredible.
That they do not do 34-hour restarts.
The fact that
you save your 34-hour restarts till you go home.
Right. I think that's ridiculous that they'll even do that, really.
But yes, he is right. They will mess with your logbooks while you're going down the road. You'll see you have 2 hours at one point, look back down, and you got the whole 6, 7, 8 hours back. It's like, how did that happen?
Yep. Well, how did that work out for Triton Logistics? We all know about that company, don't we? I mean, you play with somebody's logbooks and you make them drive tired, and that's what's really going on here. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, making money is one thing, but if you're putting lives at jeopardy, least of all your own, but most of all those around you, come on, you need to be off the road. You need to be shut down. I don't care whether you're the man in charge or the driver behind the wheel. Either way, there's just really, in my mind, there's no reason why we should be talking about this. I mean, it should just be forthright, top of mind, to be safe with what you're doing. I mean, if anything needs to be changed, I think it's the overall industry, but not to the extent that we're being unsafe. If more money is needed, then let's put more money in the industry in the right ways, not forcing people like you and me to drive behind the wheel tired, dangerous, and killing people. It's just, I mean, there's really, it got to be a right way to do it. which kind of brings me up to my next point. What's the real cost of pushing us? I mean, what are we looking at here? So they get a financial reward. Everybody gets the slap on the wrist. But what about the mental and physical toll of being forced to be put in that situation? First, you've got to deal with yeses and nos and the retaliation from the company. Then you've got to deal with the uncertainty of being unemployed. You don't know what's going to happen or what your future is. Whether you look for another job or not, you're dealing with this BS while all this is going on. And then you're punished for what you've said and what you've done. But then all of a sudden they come back and say, okay, you're good, no problem. They give you this cash alert. But what about in between? Between the time it started and the time it ended, think about what this person's gone through. And think about what others in the industry around this situation are going through too. Thumper, you mentioned the other day that mental health is a huge concern and often overlooked in this industry. What about this? This goes a long way to proving it's sometimes unavoidable.
Well, I mean, it is. I mean, if you sit and think about it, we sit in the trucks for week, in Larry's case, months at a time by ourselves. And, yeah, I'm fortunate enough I got Bo with me. That kind of keeps me a little bit sane. But, it does. You're in a truck by yourself. If it wasn't for cell phones nowadays, we wouldn't be having this conversation to, actually have a little bit of human communication and stuff. But there's companies out there, and I'm not going to say names, they don't allow you to have a Bluetooth.
Yeah.
You can't have a headset, you can't use your phone, you can't do nothing. That's automatic termination. So you got to sit there and think all a guy's got is a radio and stare at the road and then talk to his family, girlfriend, wife, kids, or whatever the instance is, only for a couple hours a day before a guy's got to go to bed. Yeah, I mean, it takes a toll on a person.
Yeah, I mean, aside from the obvious, what we're talking about here, how does that type of situation and treatment impact the driver? I mean, you got on the one side just the emphasis to the fact that we're out here doing the job we're doing. Then you put on the added stress of going through something that really you don't need to go through. I mean, that has a huge impact on your health.
It really does. And honestly, that's what the FMCS is there for, is to try to keep everything on a schedule so you're not so stressed out.
Yeah.
That's why we have our hours. That's that's why we run a logbook and all that stuff.
Yeah, they can only do so much. I mean, it's got to be a real big case, and under big time investigation before actually something's involving them. I mean, really, they seldom get involved unless it's really big or a lot of death or some major catastrophe happens that they have to respond. So I mean, that can be really a problem. I don't know.
There are people out there that push their employees past their limits, and I do not agree with that. I mean, I always say it, and I think I've heard you say it before. You're the captain of your ship. You cannot. Well, I shouldn't say you cannot. You can only do what you can do. Do not let them make you do what you don't want to do.
Exactly. Because the outcome of stuff like this could be very traumatic. If you don't take it right and you don't do it right, the outcome can kill you and others. So we really do want to take this seriously. Supernut, you talk about you drive from home to Alabama, 650 miles. That is honestly a long day. But, when you think about it, it's still manageable in a 14 or 11-hour schedule. So, we're trying to kind of encompass those companies that expect more. When we're talking about an entire week, when they want you to do things like overlook that 70-hour clock, when they want you to overlook the 34 hours and or constant recaps, or do things that are unsafe to the extent that this fella, look at the article. There's quite a few infractions that this company expected this driver to go through and do, ignoring completely regulations that exist for a reason. So Super. I really, I'm encouraged by the fact that you're being honest with us and you're part of the conversation. Thank you for doing that. He says, I can't make money. 18-wheeler offers. I can't make money on a standard 7-hour clock. I'm going to do something different. I hear about these companies in Chicago resetting drivers' ELDs. Shouldn't have to work like that to make a check. Exactly what I was talking about a minute ago. If you're working for a company that's fudging your clock and putting you under the gun the moment you cross the scales at any weigh station, red flags, my friend. It's unsafe, uncalled for, and you're the one that's going to have to answer for it. The company will eventually, but they're going to get you first. You are the first person, as I say on my 2 shows, weekly, Wednesday and Saturday. You are on the front lines. It's the reason I named it that show. You're the one that gets the crap first when things go south. So you guys really have to be on your guard. Bo, did you want to offer something to the audience?
Yes.
You got on?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. I seen you put your hand up.
I've been looking at some of Super Nut Express's comments. He's worried about a $2,300 or $2,500 escrow that they're going to seize. Okay, what is $2,300 or $2,500 against your life?
Yeah, well, I don't know what this escort business is. I don't know what that's all about. Maybe that's something to do with their lease contract. I don't know, but it could be something that simple. I don't know.
I think it's escrow.
Could be. Yeah, it could be. Yeah. Honestly, legally speaking, escrow, if you put in escrow to manage maintenance, they're supposed to give it back to you. They're not supposed to hold it.
Exactly.
If I'm wrong in the comments, either one of the panelists, let me know. Please. My understanding is escrow goes back to the person paying into it. So he shouldn't worry about that. So I don't know if you guys think I'm wrong. I think I'm right. So that's probably why I'm hearing silence. He said,
depending how you quit.
Read your contract. Yeah, go ahead, Fate. You wanted to pipe in? Go ahead. Oh, okay. Larry?
Depending on how you quit, they can keep if you leave your truck without giving a 2 week, or if you leave it wherever they have to come get it, they will keep that escrow.
Well, it depends too on what the escrow is for, because Landstar had 2 different escrow accounts. Okay, you had a main escrow account you paid into when you were hired on as an owner operator or a BCO. It's what they call them, business capacity owner. Now that escrow was separate and above everything else with the company. You could then do what's called a voluntary escrow. And that you paid in at your own rate, at your own risk, and used it for whatever you needed. You could use it for maintenance, repairs, tolls, fees, anything, whatever. And they allow you up so much. I mean, either way, when the contract is settled, the immediate escrow that you're expected to pay in, which with that company at the time I think was $500, they retain that. Okay, if everything is good and you don't have any breaches or any money owed, you get that money because you pay into it, as well as the voluntary escrow. You get all that too. So it's your money. You're in control of it. No company has any legal claim to it unless you breach contract or owe them for some unpaid expense. Hope that clears that up. Great. Did you have anything to add to it?
And Super Nut's new comment right there. Stay away from the Chicago companies if you can.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
They're all in one building. They're going to treat you all the same way.
Yep. So
they will fire you for the littlest thing.
They will too. Yeah. We're all talking about the escrow. We're moving down. I'm trying to include all the comments here, so bear with me, guys. Quit 2-week notice. They'll take it. Just like Larry said, don't worry about it. I mean, even if they do and they make you fight for it, dude, you're doing better. You're actually doing something right, so don't sweat it. But on that, let me ask this. Why are we pushed to work when we're fatigued or when we're unwell? Why should it even be an issue? If you tell a company you don't feel well, one of the cases, this is just, I was not going to mention it originally, but I feel like it's important because it's something we all need to think about. One of the 10 cases, this fella decided not to work was over a dental emergency. Dude had a problem with, an affected tooth or something going on. And he couldn't perform the job. Obviously, if you've got a bad toothache or if you've got a root canal that's infected, dude, you can't concentrate on your job. You just can't do it. Forget trying, But they fired off with a bunch of disciplinary measures and got pissed at him when he didn't do anything or stayed home or something like that. It began with him having that problem, but then yet the company kept demanding that he keep driving. So how common is it for drivers like that to be pushed to work while you're not feeling well? And what does that say about the industry? What are your thoughts, Poet?
6 months ago, I was, they call it constructive dismissal.
Right.
It's where the company I was working for the last 5 years, they downgraded me to casual without my consent.
Right.
Because I was having some issues.
Right.
One of which was a mental breakdown in HR's office after HR asked me how my wife was doing. Second of all, my age, hey, I shake. Okay?
Right.
That's normal for a 70-year-old. Well, after trying to keep going and calling dispatch for 8 weeks at a time, all of a sudden it's, well, we're worried about your competency and your fit for duty status. Really?
I'm here, ain't I? That would be my answer.
Yeah. But I said, okay, find a test where I can prove my fit for duty and my competency.
Yep.
No, we can't do that. You're only good for vans anymore, and we're a flatbed company, and we don't have van loads for you.
You have a product, I have a service. Put the two together. God bless you or hit the deck. That's all I'd say.
But now, of course, I'm having a bit of a time trying to find a new job.
Well, you certainly don't have experience in your back pocket posing a problem, so I'm not really wholeheartedly worried about that. I think you'll recover from that.
Well,
and
maybe.
I certainly hope you do, really. 18-Wheeler says these days as a truck driver, if you have an accident with injuries or death and you have violations on your clock, trucking, health, etc., prepare for a prison sentence. Yes, that is at the end of the day what we're trying to avoid. I mean, because really, it's a job. It's not a prison sentence. And if you work it like it is, you're working yourself to death and you're likely going to kill somebody else. And that's really no way to work. That's no way to work a profession. So, 7 C's comes in and says, we live a soft society. So sometimes I guess dispatchers are trying to decipher if a driver's legitimately having issues or just full of excuses. Could be a tough problem to have. Well, I think it's really easy to figure out if someone is a loafer, Yeah, to your point, 7 C's, I think there's a huge discrepancy between someone who's having legitimate issues. Like, for example, let's take Poet, and he's got 54 years in trucking. He's been around the block. He's done a number of things. He's not exactly going to get on with a company and say, you know what, I only want to drive 100 miles a week. Okay, why get the keys then? Or take someone like Larry. He's in a reefer truck. He's got his own responsibilities. He's got to make bill payments. So we need to give him something that's going to do. What's it going to benefit him by sitting there on his butt every day doing nothing? And then back to me. I'm in household goods. This week when I get out on the road, I'm going to be here. I'm going to be hitting it clear of 3,500 miles in a single week without fail from here to Washington State. And I've got a clock to beat. I've got to make it happen. Not saying that's a problem, but I've got a goal and a mission. What would it advantage me to sit there and do nothing instead of collecting that paycheck at the end of that last load delivery in Washington State. I'm going to do the best I can to get the job done safely, mind you. I'm going to do it. But if someone like me, Larry or Poet, is going to sit there and display obvious cues and clues that we're not into what we're doing, something like being soft or just sometimes having a problem really isn't going to play into that. You can tell when you hire somebody, they're a pain in the butt. And you already know before there's a dispatch issue. Bye. You already know that. So I get your point, 7Cs. You make a valid one. It is a problem. We have a lot of people come into this industry and they think it's something it's not, So I think that's part of the larger retention issue we've talked about in other lives. We're certainly going to explore that again in a future episode. Let's go around the panel and think about what can we learn from this story? What can we take with us to better prove that we can make trucking great again? Larry, what do you think? What do you glean from this that we can take with us and make something happen positively or pull out of it that gives us the independence we need and still gives us what we need to get the job done? What do you think?
Speak up, communication. Two biggest things in our industry.
Yep.
If something don't feel right, ask questions. There's no wrong question in this industry.
That's
the
true.
only wrong one is the one that's not being asked.
It's very true. Very true. Very true and very pressing. That's very obvious. Poet, what do you think? If you were to draw one simple thing out of the entire conversation we just had tonight, what would that one thing be that you'd want to tell everybody watching us tonight?
Well, I could start with, if a company screws you over, they owe you money, but I'm not even going to go there. But it's like what Larry said. Speak up.
Yeah.
And the only stupid question is the one you never ask.
Very true, my friend. Very true. Thumper, what do you think? If there is one thing you can pull from this and gives everyone in the audience a sense of what we can do to stay independent and stay safe, knowing what OSHA has done to back us up and what lies ahead, what would that message be?
Well, that message would be is stand up for what you believe in, for one. Two, know what you're worth. And don't push yourself past limits. If you don't think you can do it, don't do it. Simple as that.
Yep.
You need to keep your mental health in check. You need to keep everything else in check. And just know what you're worth is the main thing. So God bless everybody who's in the affected areas, Carolinas, Florida, the wildfires out in the Midwest here. Y'all have a great night. We don't do it for us and our families. We do it for you guys.
Amen to that. Amen to that. We are certainly here for you guys. Day in and day out, we're giving you the reports you need, the information that makes a difference. Subscribe to our channel, truckincity.com, truckincitymedia.com, and look for our exciting opinion-based videos, both on the Journal and on Frontline, currently streaming twice a week, Wednesdays and Saturdays at 7 p.m. at night. Current topic may interest you, but we're coming to you live as much as possible to make you smarter, the industry better, and everybody's day a more positive thing to look forward to. So while you're on the road, guys, keep it real, keep the promise to yourself, and keep it safe. And don't forget, it's the trucks that make the deliveries, but it's you that make the difference. Till next time, keep it rolling.